What up, y'all? I am back with another video. Coming right back at you with the back-to-back videos. I have a little bit more time. Interview season is over. Rank opens in a couple of days and everything is coming to a close. So I'm finally able to catch up on some of the things I promised you guys. So thanks for being patient. Before we get into this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and put those bell notifications on so you will not miss when I upload. Okay. So today, since my last day is tomorrow, I'm going to go ahead and talk about internal medicine sub-I and how it is a little bit different than your internal medicine core rotation. So with your internal medicine sub-I, it's very similar to internal medicine core rotation, but you have more responsibility. Like I said in the previous video, is that when internal medicine core rotation, you have up to about 2 patients versus in internal medicine sub-I, you can have up to 4 patients. And so you also I wanted to be at a sub-I, which basically mimics an intern. So as an intern, as a 4th year, I acted as an intern. So I saw all the patients by myself. I wrote all the notes, all the admission HMPs, all the progress notes. I did all the consults. Like if a patient needed to have a bronch, I had to coordinate with the pulmonologist and communicate with their team in order to get the patient a bronch. Or if they had episode of melena, meaning they have most likely a GI bleed, I had to coordinate basically the patient's care to the GI team so they can scope he or she for operation if they need operation or any other further management. I also worked with psych in addition. So I basically was the intern. I called the family. I updated the families every day about the update of their loved ones. I spoke with lots of family members. I spoke with primary care physicians in regards to, say for instance, you have a patient who came in who has altered mental status and I cannot get anything from them. They're nonverbal and I cannot get any history from them, or they don't have any family they either don't have any family or they're not answering the phone. So I'm the one that's calling the physician's office that's listed in their care chart, so I can try to figure out what is his past medical history, what medications does he normally have, does he follow up with anybody. So I did a lot. I basically was an intern. I put the orders in. So that's basically working as a first year intern. It was my patient, and I really, really liked that because in a couple of months, I'm going to have to be able to, coordinate with case manager and do consults if needed, whether depending, and that regardless of what specialty that I'm going to be going into, which I'm not going to say until match. But I wanted to have a lot of experience with dealing with patients basically almost on my own with the help of my colleagues as well as the residents and the attendings. I do the assessment plans, I do all of that. So that's the main difference with internal medicine sub-I, is the amount of responsibility that you have versus a third-year medical student. As a third-year medical student, majority of the time they only allow you to have 1 to 2 patients, and they don't really allow you to put in orders. They may just have you focus on learning how to write an HMP or learning how to write a progress note, how to do certain physical exams, or what do you think is going on. It's more that aspect versus when you're in 4th year, they're like, okay, go see the patient, do the physical exam, tell me your assessment plan, write the note, and then come back to me and report. Yeah. So it's different. You have a lot more responsibility, but whatever the challenge, long as you do it, you're going to be fine, whatever you do. And I think that internal medicine, regardless of what field you are, since it is so broad, you're going to have some kind of basis of internal medicine before you go into anything. Maybe not as much as peds, but even with that, depending on what, if you do pediatrics, depending on what ages you want to see, you still need internal medicine. So internal medicine is basically your bread and butter to your transitioning stage. For you're doing transitional year or whatever, you're going to need it. So that's one of the reasons why I chose to do internal medicine sub-I. So that's basically the main differences. So just to make it shorthand, your responsibility is higher, your patient load is higher, and you are basically that patient's physician. So if that means that you need to talk with the case manager, do consults, put orders in, write notes, come up with your own assessment plan, that's what you're doing. So that's basically what I did. Some videos of what it is like in your day-to-day life, a little variations. Of course, I couldn't video everything, but just so you can see. But before we get into the video, basically what you'll see is me basically waking up. I usually wake up at about 5:45 because I do like a quick little cardio workout with my jump rope, do about 200 to 300 jump ropes. Then I take a shower, then I water my plants, then I make some tea, then I send my good morning messages to my family and friends, which no one responds because who's up at 5:45, 6 in the morning. And then I make my way to the hospital, and I try to get there at like 6:30 at the latest, or 6:45 at the latest. In this case, because it's so close to the hospital. And so I do that, similar to what I did in my third year. I make sure I get there early so I can start on my progress note, or if there's any new admits that are going to be coming in at 7:30 sign out from the night team. I make sure I start on my notes from 6:30 to 7:30. I start on my notes. I talk to the nurses who are there overnight. I talk with my patients, and I make sure if they have any questions or concerns, or how are they tolerating their medications, how are they tolerating their food, if they're having like nausea or anything like that. And then I, of course, make sure I speak with my nurses because they save your behind, and they can tell you a lot what's going on, whether they required some pain medication, if they had some loose stools or anything like that, or how many Dilaudid that they get overnight, because you have to really watch that, those medications. So I do that from about 6:30 to 7:30. By 7:30, I wanted to have seen all my patients, or at least half of my patients, and started on all of my notes. So I wanted to be at least 50% done with seeing patients and 50% done with notes. If I only have 2 patients, then I want to be done by 7:30. And then 7:30 is sign out. So sign out is basically, depending on which hospital you rotate at and what their schedule is, they have a team called night float. So the night float team basically takes care of all of your patients over the night while you're at home, and then they tell you whatever happened overnight in the morning at 7:30. So during that time, you go talk to the night team, and then after that, you speak with the night team, and they say, hey, like when they required another package of red blood cells, the H&H went from 6.8 to now 7.8. Continue to watch her for any hypotensive symptoms, or the patient was fine, they didn't have any symptoms or anything or complaints, or your patient was screaming at the top of their lungs and we had to give them pain medicine. So that's the night team. And then I go and speak with the other night team that takes the admits. So I speak with them to see if we have any new admits, meaning that if we have any new patients. Now that can vary based off hospital and their schedule. Some hospitals don't have night float. You either have Q4, sometimes where there's no night float team, or you sign out to somebody else, and then you only get new admits on every 4 days. Or here you get new admits almost every day except for if you're post call. So it can become very confusing, but depending on what hospital you are at and their schedule, you'll get used to it. And if you have any questions, just be like, hey, are we on call? I mean, it's not that hard. But as far as the schedule, keeping up with schedule can become confusing. But other than that, just ask your resident. Like, it's no big deal. So after that ends about 7:45, 8 o'clock, depending on how many people are in front of you or behind you and how many teams there are that are coming to do the sign out. So that finishes about 8. At about 8 o'clock, I finish all of my notes, any notes that I need to finish, or any patients I still need to see, I go see them, and then we do pre-rounds with the senior resident to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And then at 9:45, we have multiple disciplinary rounds, what they call AKA MDR. And so with MDR, we meet in a room where we have the nurses for your patients, the case manager for your patients, the residents for that patient, and the attending for that patient, so that everybody is on the same page. For example, if I have a patient that is being ready to be discharged and he doesn't have a place to go, that's when the case manager is going to say, hey, we found him extended care facility, or hey, we're going to discharge him home. We're going to give him transportation, and then as long as the transportation is done, the discharge is done by 12 o'clock, we can have him transported by 2 o'clock, or he's going to go back home with his family. Or if they say, hey, when do you think this patient is going to be discharged? Because a lot of the time, some patients kind of want to stay in the hospital, and so we have like, when do you think they're going to be stabilized enough to get out of the facility, especially during COVID. We have to be like, okay, we think they're going to be coming out in 24 to 48 hours, because like right now with COVID and everything, we have to give up beds, and if the patient is stable and there's nothing else going on with them, they cannot just stay at the hospital. We need beds. So that's some of the things that we talk about during MDR, and we talk about all of our patients. So we do that from about 9:45 to 10:15, and then at about 10:15, 10:30, we actually start our own rounds just with the residents and the attending. So at that time, that's when you give the full spiel of the overnight events, the physical exam, the vital signs, their labs, their assessment and plan for today. If there's anything that needs to be followed up on, do I need to consult somebody? If we consulted somebody yesterday, what did they say? Did they make any changes to medications? So that's what we basically do until about, 12 o'clock, 12:30. And then at 12:30, we have teaching. So due to COVID, we don't have the conference in person. We have the conference on Zoom. So the conference is about from 12:30 to 1:30. Today, I believe it was on hepatitis C, and the day before was on GI bleeds. So they have different topics with people such as your attendings that come and talk to you about different things. So that's about an hour long. And so I usually just eat my lunch during that time and listen to the conference call. And about 1:30, I start calling my patients' families, as well as make sure all the orders for the labs are in for the morning, or if I need to consult somebody, or the consult that I made earlier that morning, I follow up with them. I follow with the nurses, and I go back and see my patients to make sure they're doing well, and if they're tolerating their diets, are they having any more questions or concerns, as well as talk to their families, give their families updates about their patient, what is the plan for them, and if they have any questions or concerns. So I do that for about 1:30 to 2:30, and then things start to slow down around 3 o'clock. And then around 3 o'clock, depending on what day it is, sometimes we can get new admits to I think 5 o'clock. Other than that,
Sorry, I forgot to say this, but on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock we go to intern report. And intern report only deals with the intern residents, which are the first year residents as well as the medical students. And we go down to the lecture hall, which you see is going down there right now. And what we're doing is we're going to go over a couple of lecture series with the help of a New England Journal Medicine. And on this day we were talking about patients with IBD as well as complications of diarrhea. Other than that,
things start slowing down. Ask the residents if they need anything else, and then if we're just chilling, they would be like, hey, go home. Like, you've done enough, like, good job, go home, go relax, and prepare for interviews. If you have interviews, go study. If you have a shelf coming up or something like that. So that's basically my day-to-day on Sub-I. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope that gave you good insights on what to expect on your internal medicine Sub-I and what are some of the expectations, as well as a little bit sneak peek into my day-to-day life as a Sub-I in internal medicine. And I hope that gave you great insight. So I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.